Hi, this is Bill Punch with another video from Michigan State University on the topic, the practice of computing using Python, CSE 231. In this video, we're going to continue our examination of the list data structure and show a couple of fun things that you can do with them. Let's go ahead and get started. As we showed in the previous video, because lists are mutable, we can do things like index assignment. In index assignment, we're going to make a list, in this case 1, 2, 3, 4, and at index position -1, which is the 4, the last element, we're going to replace it with 100, and we get the answer 1, 2, 3, and 100. We can also do something called slice assignment. Here we can take an entire slice of the list and replace it with something else, though that something else has to be something that is iterable as well. So we can replace it with a string, we can replace it with a list, something like that. So here is a list that generates the list 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're going to take the slice 0 up to but not including 3, so it's going to be those pieces there, and we're going to replace it with something else. What we're going to replace it with is the iterable x, y, z. Each one of those elements is going to be placed at that spot. If we do that evaluation, we'll see that that's exactly what we get. Those 3 elements are replaced with x, y, and z. The number of elements being replaced or the number of elements you are using to do the replacement do not have to match up, so you can get away with some pretty interesting things. Same ones that we want to replace, 0, 1, and 2. Let's generate another range, which would be -5, -4, and we're going to slap that into those 3 pieces. If we do that and print it out, that's exactly what we get. The things that are going to be replaced must be an iterable. So we're not allowed to do something like this. Python gives us an error. There are lots of things that we can do with lists, and it turns out that lists are one of the most flexible data structures that Python has, so it's good that we finally get to these. Here are some things that we can do with lists that we might have guessed. Lists are iterable just like anything else, and so for every element in the list 1, 2, 3, and 4, the iterable goes through each one of those elements individually, and then we can perform some operation on them. But now we can do, for example, math, and so we're going to print out the element and the element squared. There's an interesting method that we really haven't talked about in the string data structure called the split, and the reason we haven't talked about it is because the split generates a list. What the split does is take a string, so for example, here's a string, Mary had a little lamb, and it will take the string and break it into individual pieces based on a particular character and return a list of the individual, in this case, words in the string. So the split method takes an argument, but if you don't provide an argument, the default is to use a space as the thing that is split on. So if we take our original string here and run it through, we get a list of the individual words, Mary and had and a and little and lamb. The space is not included. The strings are printed exactly. However, you can split on anything you want. Imagine, for example, that we're working with a comma-separated list, Bill, Fred, Irving, and Samantha, and we want to split on the comma. Then we say for the argument of the string that we're working with, we want to do a comma split, and we can do exactly that. When we split on the comma, we get the individual elements, Bill and Fred and Irving and Samantha, as strings, and the comma is not included. We talked about previously that if we did a sort on a list, we would change the list in place, but there's a function that's really nice called the sorted function, and what's nice is that the sorted function returns a list and doesn't change the original. That's very nice if we don't want to mess with our list too much, and so here's an example of that. Here's again another list, not particularly well sorted. We say sorted, the function on the list. We get a new list back and we can split them both. And then as before, sorted like sort could take an optional reverse value and print them in reverse order. Notice that the original list is not changed, but a new list is generated, and the original list is not changed, but a new list is generated. So here's an interesting question. What happens if you want to sort the characters of a string? The problem is you cannot directly sort a string. There's no such method, but you can sort a list. The way we would do it is to convert back and forth a string to a list and then a sorted list back to the string. We know part of this solution. We know how to convert a string to a list. We can use the list constructor, but what about a list to the string? There's a nice string method called the join method, and the join method takes as an argument a string to apply, join, and an iterable, in this case a list, to put them together, and this string is what is going to be placed between each one of these elements when it's joined together. Not at the end and not at the beginning, but only those in the middle. So the join of a blank string, an empty string, and the four characters M, A, R, and Y generate the string Mary. If we want to put them back together with something other than an empty space, we can, for example, choose to put them together with a comma in between and join the three strings Fred, John, and George. And nicely, you'll notice that there's no trailing comma, so it only puts things in between but not at the ends. And so when we generate this, we get the string Fred, comma, John, comma, George. So how do we use all this to sort a string? Here's how we would do it. We take the string, here's a really long one, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, from the movie Mary Poppins. Turn it into a list. That will create a list because we're using the constructor of individual characters, sort the characters, and then we want to put them back together, where what we put between each character is a blank string, and print the sorted string. And that's what we get. We can use the sorted function and have it save one step. When we apply the sorted function to the string supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, it generates a sorted list already of the individual characters, and then all we're required to do then is join them back together to get the sorted string.